would tell us your name and a little bit about what you do here.
My name is Steve Norbert, and I am a sales manager.
My name is Richard Sianovich. I'm the owner of Superstore here in Chandler, Arizona.
So what do you think as a manager leads to poor communication?
Poor communication stems from being in a hurry. So a small miscommunication can rack up to be a pretty large and expensive mistake in a very short period. I guess I would sum it up by saying that communication by itself may not be grounds for termination, but certainly the result of poor communication.
The biggest item that leads, in my opinion, to poor communication has to do with communication itself, the lack thereof. You have to have a one-to-one relationship with a client. You have to express to them, number one, what your ideas are, what their needs are, communicate those effectively back to the client, and then ultimately fulfill that. Only giving part of it, not writing it down, not giving accurate information, not capturing it, and so forth, comes back into a he said, she said.
Right.
And that's something that always, 100% of the time, leads to poor communication. And really what we're lacking nowadays in business has to do with that one-to-one conversation across the table from one another, on the phone. So much of it anymore is through text and through email.
How formally should employees communicate to both superiors and subordinates?
I don't think that you can be formal enough. The more formal communication is always construed with more integrity, more forcefulness, more accuracy, and more truthfulness.
Well, I think it has to be formal from the standpoint of you have to have a designated time whenever you communicate to everyone in the masses. You go through and basically say, here's the needs, and here's the targets, and here's the goals, and here's what we need to accomplish each and every week.
Is it better for employees to communicate electronically or face-to-face?
I personally prefer electronic communication just because of the time management aspect that it affords you, the accuracy and the information. I can go back and reread something 2 or 3 times until I really understand what it is that's going on, where I might have missed that in an oral communication. So
electronic communication has to be there. You're not getting away from email. You're not getting away from text and so forth. Many times, my situation is I'm remote. Half of the day or 60% of my time.
Right.
So what winds up happening is I have to live off of email. I have to live off my smartphone. And it gives a quick, in-depth, to the point, quick summation about what's going on.
Of these skills, which would you rank in the top 3 and why?
Conflict management would probably be the most important. Truly, most communication is about either avoiding conflict or trying to calm conflict.
The top 3 that I would see is communicating respect in the workplace. Number one, you have to have respect for the individuals that you work with. Here again, it comes down to how you communicate with that individual. Conflict management, another item. Don't let any problem fester. If there's an issue, address it head on.
Right.
Get to it immediately. Communication of organization and culture, that sets a business tone for what you want your organization to be. In looking at those, I would say culture is number 1, respect is number 2, conflict management is number 3.
How do you think body and oral language changes a communication?
Body, among all else, is probably some of the most effective forms of communication. And I can tell you that many a times where I will try to adjust body language very consciously.
What kind of communicator are you?
I'm probably a mixture of a couple of them. I think expressive. I certainly tend to speak really fast. I'm usually pretty passionate about what I'm speaking of. I enjoy my job. I enjoy the business. And that usually shows in my communication style, so I think that would show up as an expressive. I'm also rather direct. I'm usually fairly concise. I use a minimum amount of words to get my point across.
Direct, 100% of the time. And the reason being is I run multiple businesses. I have multiple employees that work for me. Just shy of about 100 is what my responsibility is. It's not good or bad. Some people may look at it and say, this person's aggressive in nature. Other people that are type B personalities may look at it as too aggressive in nature.
Okay.
Other type A personalities may look at it and say, wow, this is exactly how I want to be communicated with. I myself, I'm very direct with everyone. It's very black and white in our industry. There's not much shade of gray. Shades of gray in our business get you in trouble. You have to treat the same situation the same, regardless of race, creed, color, individual, tenure, and so forth. You have to be fair and you have to be equitable.
Are any of these communication styles poisonous?
I don't necessarily think any of them are poisonous, as long as they're not taken to an extreme. I think any of them taken to the extreme becomes poor communication.
Right.
And so there has to be a little bit of balance with everything. You can have a sympathetic type of communication style that becomes so sympathetic that you can't resolve conflict.
How important is it to communicate positions of authority and responsibility?
The more assertive you can be in your communication, the more you're believed, if you will.
I don't know if it's showing authority. I think it's more so getting people to understand what their roles and responsibilities are. And if people understand their roles and responsibilities and you made the right hire, I don't think anyone wants to be micromanaged. I don't like to be micromanaged. And if you're fair and equitable each and every time, it will come across, unfortunately, at times being direct, but it's to the benefit of the business as a whole and really at seeing the big picture that's involved in running a business these days. And then here's why. Individuals within this organization have different thoughts, or they're at different levels, if you will. When you're an owner and you have tens of millions of dollars on the line, you think about business differently than a person who comes to work, maybe he's a part-time employee that works from 8 till 12 or 12 to 4, punches in, punches out, goes home and so forth, and doesn't really see the big picture.
Is it the company's responsibility then to train personnel?
Yes and no. I think that everyone has to have some level of communication skills. If you're terrible from the standpoint of being able to communicate, quite frankly, you should not be in the retail customer-facing end of the business. You can train anyone to do anything.
Right. I'm
a believer in that. However, the drive and desire to continue that action is entirely up to the employee. So is it 100% the business's responsibility to train someone in communication? No, I think it's equally on both parties.
So what advice would you give the incoming workforce on communication?
I guess the first and foremost thing I would say is slow down. I think communication in general is always rushed. We always think we know exactly what we're saying. We think we're crystal clear. And if you, much the same, if you just play back this tape for me of the words that I've chosen to express myself, I'd probably go, well, there's some words there that didn't really convey the meaning that I thought they conveyed.
The biggest thing that I see with younger employees is, A, they don't really listen as well. You know, being around a business for X period of time. For me, for my own, I've been around the dealership for over 35 years. There's osmosis that comes in on how you handle something. You need to take a look at how your peers, how that management team handles a situation, and just absorb it and listen. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Most of the time what I find is people don't ask questions. They're being asked to do something without understanding why it's important for them to go ahead and do that, and finding the right employee that can think on their feet, can do what we're asked, and also have a sense of accomplishment to understand what they need to do each and every time, or can look around and can surmise for their own that they need to make a change, or something's not right here and I need to step in and try to help out. That's what I really see from a younger workforce nowadays is that inability or lack of wanting to step in and just kind of let things happen.
Right.